This is my 1989 Toyota pickup, base model, two-wheel drive, and this is how you're going to change the upper and lower ball joints in this particular model. Here's some general equipment you're going to want to have. This torque wrench, very important. A wrench set. You're gonna have to hold down some bolts and nuts while you take them off the other side with another wrench. Got some grease. We got one jack, and I have another jack over there. I like to have both. It's certainly easier if you have the bullet jack as well, because we're going to be using that for supporting the arm. So first step is to get ready to remove the wheels. Got my jacks, bullet jack, and I've also got the emergency brake on and my stoppers. All right, both front wheels are off. Next thing to do is to make space for what we need to do. So the brake line, caliper, brake system's in the way. So put this box here, we're gonna remove those in order to make some more space. All right, the brakes are completely removed and placed safely. Notice I'm not putting any tension on the brake line, so the brake line is safe. All right, now let's look at what I'm going to change. These tie rods, pretty damn loose. I'm putting almost no effort into this and it's so loose, so wiggly. I'm gonna change this upper ball joint right here. And this is what gave me the biggest problem. And YouTube was no help. The lower ball joint right here. So this is the lower ball joint right here. Thing is, most of these models, Toyota, late 80s, early 90s, 4Runners, which are Tacomas, which are really interchangeable with, they've got a lot of pieces that share the same components, but the lower ball joint on most other models is on the bottom. It's flipped. And on this model, the castle nut is on the top. So in other models, you can use a pit arm puller, one of these, just fine, because it goes like this on other models like the Tacoma, the 4Runner, and other pickup models. But on mine, it's flipped. In order to make this a whole lot easier, I'm going to be removing the bolts that hold the shocks. In addition, I'm going to be removing the bolts that hold this bar. It's going to give me a lot more space to work with, and I'm going to be able to manipulate the lower arm. I just sprayed some Freol. This is going to make it a lot easier to take these things apart. I'm going to let it sit for about 20-30 minutes, but you can let it sit for a bit longer. Also, I got right here this torque wrench. I'm going to use it as a breaker bar. It's going to make things a whole lot easier. Okay, with these two bolts out of the way, there they are. It's going to give me a lot more space to remove those 3 nuts for the lower ball joint. In addition, it's going to be easier to remove this linkage here from the bottom. Get to that soon. All right, tackling this linkage, it's 12 on the bottom and 12 on the top. Working these two together, teamwork. All right, and this is one of the reasons why I like having this second jack, this bullet, to manipulate not only the arm, but also this bar here so that I can take out this linkage. And the 2x4 certainly helps. Now I can easily pull that out. Now, in addition, I use this bullet to also manipulate the bolt so that I can have enough thread to tie it on the top. I'm manipulating the arm, lower and upper, and any bars. Using the jacks is vital to make this an easy job. I personally like to remove the upper ball joint before the lower ball joint. All right, so I'm gonna remove that cotter pin. Pin removed. I put this bullet underneath it to support it so it doesn't fall down, and I can manipulate its height and put the new one on and slip it back in easily. So bullet there before I start removing these nuts and that castle nut. And this is the opportunity to actually use that Pitman arm puller. All right, and with this ball joint released, I'm gonna brush up this space right here, this space right here. Get it ready for the new ball joint. Nice and clean. Right, with the new castle nut on and everything cleaned and lubed. So I have this new upper ball joint in. I'm going to use that jack to bring these two a little bit closer. Watch. And that's gonna make my job a whole lot easier to put these brand new nuts inside. We all love putting nuts inside, right? And with the nuts and bolts on, torque them to the manufacturer's specifications. Damn, and look at that new shiny upper ball joint. Okay, next one is gonna be my least favorite one, the lower ball joint, because on this model, damn, this one is freaking annoying. So that's what I'm gonna tackle next. For now, I'm gonna leave this tie rod component on because it really helps deal with a lot of the play involved and helps with loosening and tightening the bolts. All right. With the bolts and the castle nut off, next comes off the tie rod, and that is going to give me an incredible amount of space to work on disjointing the lower ball joint to the steering knuckle. So castle nuts, and if these don't separate too easily, I still have the Pitman arm and the ball joint remover. All right, tie rod's removed thanks to that ball joint remover. And here's the part where this model differs from most other 4Runner, Tacoma, Hilux pickup models of the same era. So the lower ball joint, not only does it have the castle nut on the top, but the lower bracket of the lower ball joint slips into a type of, well, I guess you would call this a pit. So this bracket here connects into the lower control arm here as well. So it forms a type of rectangle, and this lower ball joint has to insert inwards, whereas others are put directly on top or just fit directly on the bottom, but this has to slide inwards. Now, this is a very, very delicate procedure. You don't want to do anything too aggressive. You want to do everything just right, because if you put any unnecessary pressure on this, the control arm, the lower ball joint, the knuckle, you could cause some irreparable damage, okay? And that would be a very, very bad thing. So it's very, very important that we only continue with the utmost caution and precision. All right, no problem. Done. A few whacks of the hammer, and nice and loose. Now the new lower ball joint is inside of the steering knuckle, there. And you see the lower bracket of the lower ball joint. It's at an angle because it needs to slide into that lower arm bracket. So what I'm going to to do is I'm going to raise this bullet a little higher so that the lower control arm raises a little higher so that this can slide in easily. All right, wunderbar. All right, so my battery died and it's still dying and it's now nightfall, but let's check out the new product. There's the upper ball joint. Brakes are back on, specified to the torque recommendations. Lower ball joint, there it is. Put those nuts back in, because we love to put our nuts in. And gonna take this tomorrow and get a brand new alignment.